All right, we're back again, and today we have had this weekend, we have had the Nationals for both Fusion World and Masters. You guys on the YouTube channel would have seen my little post yesterday. I managed to come top 64 with Baby. I achieved what I wanted to achieve, but today I wanted to play what I do best, and that is mill. And look, we did pretty good. We ran Zamasu today, and for anyone wondering, yes, I did raw dog it without a sleeve, but shout out to Rowan. Rowan bought some boxes today, and he managed to pull the alt art. So we got 9th place. Zamasu deserves to be an alt art now. So, I've come across and started to love the Lord, as it is a mill deck, as we got the energy marker to go with it. And we've got my token, which is actually a really cool Father's Day thing that my kids got for me. So always really pretty cool, something special as my kids are back at home. So for those that don't know what the leader does, this is a mill deck. When you're unawakened, when you swing, you look top 5, grab any god card. So I only run one, but yes, this does mean you can run a search of a super combo, which is always good. But a lot of the time, I never found myself in a situation where I wanted to find super, the deck draws a lot. You draw into your super combos most of the time. A lot of the time, early game, you want to be trying to find your fusion, your Patara pieces to get you going. And then your awakening condition is 2 or more energy and a Z unison of specified cost of 1, which is obviously the Goasu that I will show you. You untap 1, draw 1, take 6, flip over. And on this side, when you attack, you draw a card and get 5k for the battle. And then you have an auto. Whenever you play a Zamasu card with Evolve or Union, your opponent mills a card. Now, this is not once per turn, so every time you do it, but it's also got a permanent that for activating your Union Pataras, you can use go-to blacks from your drop. So, and all your cards, even the few Zamasus, are Zamasu targets, which have indestructible, so you've always got one target, and then your other target is always in your drop. So you never really have to re-establish things. Against yellow and red, you have to re-establish sometimes, but...
And Vegito.
And Vegito. So we'll get into the deck. So, 4-1 cost Zamasus, 4-1 cost Goku Blacks. These are like your main... This is mainly your turn 1 play because you can play it, draw a card, and then on your turn 2, when you awaken, you can rest... Both of these have the same activate main to rest them and make your opponent mill a card. So... On turn 2, you can awaken, you get a Goku Black in your Z energy, you awaken with it, you rest this, and then you use it as a Patara target, and it's essentially milled 3 cards because your Zamasu that you play. So we need to keep lots of Goku Blacks, so we run a total of 10 Goku Blacks. Mainly this one, I think I have it the wrong way around, but you probably want to play more. This is the one I want to play because you can play this on your opponent's turn as well, and if you need to, you can tick your leader up on your opponent's turn with this, and it also plays as shadow token with blocker, which blocker in this deck is really annoying because everything that gains blocker in this deck only happens after your opponent's swung already, and a lot of the time you only want to block on your attack that you're dormanting on. So that's probably the one thing that I would say the deck struggles with, is just dealing with that swing under dormant. But I did have like an option in the side for that. And this is just obviously to give you like 10 Goku Black targets, which is probably more than enough. You could probably use 8, but you definitely don't ever want to be a situation where you don't have a Goku Black in your drop. And these both are actually relevant in the mirror if you ever... or in any match where the deck does draw a lot, you do have potential to mill yourself out if you aren't milling them fast enough, because all these cards, except for these ones, draw on play. And I guess you could say this one, you can just whiff your search. But these all mill without having to draw. One plays a blocker, which can be relevant. This one plays double strike. This one gains double strike if you go to Union, but it's very rare that ever comes up. But the KOing a 4 cost can come up. So I think that's the right sort of thing for it. You could play it the other way around, or you could just play like 3-3, but I think 10 targets of Goku Black is more than enough. I think the list is 55, so it's like 10% of your deck, so you should be pretty good there. Next up is our Zamasu package, and this card is probably like... This card, I originally had it too, but I just wanted to make sure that I didn't run out of them. and you just need to make sure, like, at worst case, it's just milling them 2. This is like your main card that you always want to use. And then this card is probably a bit better for the early game, just to cycle through more of your deck, because this one is the only one that only mills them 1, but it draws you 2 cards. And it is also really good for Z energy. So like, this card is really good if you ever have to try and push to kill someone and you have to play under Explosive Dance, because you can just Z charge a card from underneath and KO one of your opponent's battle cards. So even if opponent doesn't, and it's not a once per turn or a limit 1, so you can do that as many times as you want, as long as you've got battle cards, because it's a cost to put the card in the drop. Put the card into the Z energy, so you can't use your Z battle cards that you Patara with. And then of course our main guy, which is this one, which is our big boy that we want to be trying to play. I think pretty much every game you are playing this on turn 3, because you can't play it unless you have 3 or more energy. Like I said, these all draw 1. This one will mill. This one mills for play. This one mills for play. This one doesn't mill for play. So this one mills 1. This one mills 2. This one mills 2. This one mills 3, because it actually mills 2 for the on play. And they've all got like little abilities, like we just spoke about this one. This one, when you swing, you can place a card. You have to place a card in the drop if you want this effect, but you can KO a 5 or less and rip markers off your opponent's unison. So it is really good for like unison control. It didn't actually come up at all, but it did help. Like, you could argue like having this at like 2, but I think if I didn't have this at 3 today, I probably would have really struggled to win my last match, because I had to play 2 of these in my final turn. So that's pretty much the Zamasu package. And sorry, I go over what these ones do. When this one attacks, you draw a card regardless of this, but you can use a card from underneath in a combo with its skills engaged. So you need to get a Z energy, or it's just a way to get your Goku Blacks back in the drop. Same with this one, a way to get your Goku Blacks back in the drops. But this is your main guy that you just want to just keep him on board as much as you can. So the more union targets you establish, the more draws you get. Which is where I sort of come back to. If you stick if you don't evolve on top of this for like 3 or 4 turns, you just draws you a card every single turn. And because it's got indestructible, it's pretty hard to remove. So this is like the best of the cards. This is obviously just like really good for making your opponent mill extra cards. But it's also going to activate battle. It has to be cards under this. You need to remove the cards from underneath, and then you can switch a Zamasu card to active mode, give it 5k for the turn. So you can switch, if you want to like swing and put double strike pressure, you can restand this. You can restand this, swing again with this, draw another card, combo again. Or you can restand your leader. So if you are ever under like a battle card floodgate and you can swing with your leader, you can just like pop it, swing with your leader twice, draw 2 cards under like a battle card effect. So if they think like, oh, okay, if we lock them out of battle card swings, they can't swing draw with this. So you can just draw twice with your leader instead, which is really good. And then it's not always relevant on your turn to give it a 5k bean, but defensively, a 5k bean can be really like, you can never go wrong with a 5k bean. Next up, we got like the Floodgate package, and I was so unprepared for this. I actually would have had 2 of these in the side as well as bigger more. I just think this card is really good at the moment. You think like outside of Kidku, there's a lot of matchups it's relevant for, like Shadow Dragons. Shadow Dragons are like all 8s, and you just play this. They can't swing with them, so you don't ever have to worry about playing Oceanus through Floodgates or counterplays. The only thing is that in my last game, I was under the SS4 Goku that makes you tap an extra 1, so I would have had to have tapped 3 for this, which was just way too much. So it stopped me from doing this, but I had Oceanuses to pivot, which worked well. And the only downside is that it doesn't stop them actually attacking. So if they're a low and wide board like Kidku, this is irrelevant. It only stops them swinging with the SCR or the double striker. So it would always get side out for Kidku if I played it, which I was lucky enough that I didn't. For Dormant, we all know what Dormant does, and of course for Oceanus. This combo, you just like choose one turn, you play this, one turn, you play that. There's not a lot of counters there's no counter to Dormant if you just pay for it. Early game is the only time I would ever recommend using this for free, because you don't want to crack your marker or something to use this, and it's very unlikely that your opponent is going to counter you like early game. Oceanus, I stuck every single one of these. I had to use 3 in my last game to get me over the line because my opponent was able to just keep putting cards back in his deck with one of the Shadow Dragons. But I was very lucky. I played against a Bojack and he whiffed all his Bujans, so I was able to stick these every time, which was really, really good. Really fortunate for me. 2 testing. I did contemplate 3 because I was really worried about Kidku, and like if this is the only, like I run 2 battle card negates and this is my only hard negate, so I thought about going to 3 in case I come up in a situation where I need a battle where I need an extra card negate against especially the Vegito Quad Strike, because they can just look at your hand and pinch your Oceanuses, or your King Piccolo negate is the other one I've got. 3 Bujan, as we are running 3. Shout out to Greg who stayed with us. He loaned me these because I didn't actually think about this tech until I watched someone else play Zamasu, because my preparation for this was really, really bad. But Bujan just basically stops your opponent from playing Chaozu on you when you play Kidku, because arguably Kidku is a pretty much sometimes feeling impossible matchup to win. Whereas if you can stop them playing Chaozus with Bujans, it allows you to sort of like go uncontested and allow you to mill, because they just interrupt your mill so easily. 2 Solidarity. I did have the trunks in for barrier removal, and I just wanted to double down on something in case I played the mirror and I wanted to remove some indestructible. But I was thinking about all the situations, and if I ever come into yellow and they were to play the Sin promo, they could just negate the trunks skills, so I couldn't swing with it. But because this game's barrier, I would still be able to swing through and just remove something with barrier. So that's why I ended up going back to this, but I didn't use it all day. I actually got to my last matchup and I sided this out because I was like, oh, the Shadow Dragons don't play any barrier cards, but boy was I wrong, because he played the Goku that locks me out of paying extra cards for their actual cost. As I said, I went to 3 King Piccolo just because I had a few flex spots and I just wanted an extra negate, so I just went to the King Piccolo. It is a good card. A lot of the time, I only use it a couple times just to negate 1 or 2 attacks, and rip a marker, but it was there. It does a job. I mean, looking back now, there's probably a couple of extra cards that I could have utilized a bit better. That maybe I could have cut King Piccolo back to 2, but I was happy with that. 1 Charismatic. I think I got it off once all day. I really to be honest, I nearly thought about cutting this, but because a lot of the time it's a big body format, in my opinion. I could be wrong, where you think the Shadow Dragons play 8s all the time, shit like that. So Charismatic isn't always live. If you could play this at 4, I think you could probably still play this at a few more copies, but I don't know, I haven't seen it come up very often. So that would probably nearly be a cut spot. Super combos, I only own 1 Hellas, and it is searchable, so it probably is the correct choice. But I also ran 3 Paragus, because the thing with Hellas is when you combo with it, you have to discard a card to draw 2, and pretty much it serves the purpose well that you put your Goku Blacks in the drop. When you're getting late game and you are sort of you really have a few pieces in your hand that you don't want to get rid of, sometimes I just find it better just to draw the 2 with Paragus and then warp 1 away. Sometimes it can backfire, and you could draw into things that you need, and you don't end up with any dead cards, and then you do have to get rid of a card that maybe would have been better served in your drop. But I don't know, I was happy with this. I would probably nearly go to a 2-2 split. It didn't actually use as many super combos as I thought I would today. I actually had to, in my loss, I was in a position where I had 4 cards in hand, and 2 of them were pieces of the chain to hopefully get me back into control. So I actually had to discard these. So it felt really bad to have to discard 2 super combos, but it definitely didn't end well. And my SCR choice was Purunga. I really feel like this deck doesn't have an SCR that is that suits it well. I originally thought Pan, because it's just another floodgate, but Pan just did not feel good in this deck. I was sold on Golden Cooler, because I thought if you have any of these slow grindy matchups where you're going to go to a lot of energy, and especially the mirror, if you want to if you're going to eventually run out of Zamasu pieces, and if you were to Golden Cooler them, they would have to either choose getting rid of Zamasu pieces or getting rid of floodgates. And if they get rid of floodgates and negates and stuff, you can go and kill them. But if they get rid of Zamasu pieces, then it slows down their mill, so effectively allows you to hopefully take the game. And shout out to Rowan, he loaned me this card because I was actually going to use Cell Max, and we didn't have a Cell Max here, so we actually used Purunga. And Purunga for 2 energy, if you have a look at the deck operates on 1 energy plays. This is 2 energy, so it actually feels a bit rough playing it, but I used it in... I never really found... Like, I actually comboed this a few times just because it was a 1 for 10k, and I really needed a 1 for 10k at the time, and I wasn't going to be able to use it because you just use your mill chain. So, I mean, this is really like a flex SCR spot. You could try so many different SCRs. I feel like after seeing a bit more of Tim, shout out to him, his games that I got to watch over like the side event and stuff, Cell Max is the correct one because Kiku is your hardest matchup, and if they run out of negates, because they don't answer, like you could essentially swing Quad Strike at them in every game, because if they remove it, it's going to deal them a damage and just remove their board. So you can just like keep swinging them with the Quad Strike unless they really just want to clear it off. So I think that might be the best SCR just to deal with your worst matchup, but I played this once because I just had no options left in my hand, so I played it to draw 2 and then wipe my opponent's board. So it served a purpose when I used it, but for 2 energy, it just didn't feel good. Nothing 2 energy outside of Oceanus or Bigger More felt good. Our Z deck was obviously 4 Zamasus that we play off the Goasu. So the Goasu, we use this just about every turn, even if I wasn't playing a Union that turn, or if I was going into like the 8-drop, it's always handy just to still play this, because even if you play this and they don't remove it, then you can start a new chain the next turn. And I think there was one game I actually used 3 of these, and there's not much more to say to them. You always play this. That is your uptick. So, and the -3, which didn't actually come up at all today, you can, when your opponent attacks, you can switch something to active mode, give it blocker, switch the Zamasu to active mode, give it blocker, all that sort of stuff. And I was also running 1 Bardock. As I mentioned earlier, the deck struggles with like dealing with the swing where they dormant, because a lot of the time your opponent will swing like their biggest attack at you. So Kiku's always swinging a 30k, normally a double, or Shadow Dragons are swinging a 30k at you. So you have to like try and navigate that one swing, because a lot of the time you can like King Piccolo or token negate the next swing. So I put this in there to go with some tech in my sideboard, which was the Blue Hate Vegetas. And basically it's just because they're a barrier card, so you can just stick this turn 1 if you need to, or just at any time to draw a card. And you just use the Bardock Unison to give it blocker. So if they ever, so like if you know you're going to dormant them, and you've got this on board, you've given it blocker, you can dormant, block, it dies, and then you can negate the next swing, and you've lost no resources to get out of a big swing, which a lot of the time, like if they're smart, they will put a bit of combo behind their first swing just to really force your resources and make the swing count. So I thought that was relevant. It didn't come up again because, again, it's a 2 energy play, and it just didn't feel like, there was so many times I was like, I could play a Zamasu, or I could just play my Unison again, tick it up, and play one of these, which felt better for 1 play, so for 1 energy. So I'd never come up, but I thought it was very handy if there was ever a time when I needed it. And 2 of these I think are really good in this deck, because like I said, when you can't deal with that swing on the dormant, if you've got this live, it's just 10k, and even into like Kiku, I think this is really good, because if they swing you and you know they've got 2 swings, you can use this to go to 25, and then like a super combo to get to 35, and you can pop this and you can kill one of their skill lists, and if they haven't got anything to bring it back, then that's a swing you've gotten rid of. Or at worst, and they use a free play, you've burnt one of their free plays, and you know you're not going to have to worry about it later, especially if your like Zamasus are already gone. So I think this is good. I was happy with my Z deck. Like I said, the Bardock didn't come up, but I still think it could have done its job. As I said, 2 of those, 3 of these hand hates. I couldn't figure out what I wanted in my sideboard, so I actually wish I had 4 of these, because in my match that I lost to Oceanus, shout out to Dean who comes second, I got Gogeta twice, and I did not see one of these at all. So, like I said, I had to discard 2 super combos. Like, even if I was able to only discard 1 super combo and this, like, it would have been well worth it. Green Gohan, it is there just to help with the unison hate, but with the Zamasu ripping a marker off, it didn't really, like, bother me too much, because a lot of the time you don't want to swing into their leader because it gives them like cards and resources, so you just want to swing into like anything that isn't their leader. So a lot of the time, if they got a unison and nowhere to protect you, just swing into the unison. 2 Demigod, just in case, like just for if I want to remove Shadow Dragons and I can't just do it with the SR Zamasu, or if I come up against Vegito and I just want to remove the barrier 6 cost. Shin, this one actually goes out to my wife, because I was going through her deck the other day thinking and just sort of getting it all together for her, and I seen that she had Shins there, and this actually helped me in my final game, because again, Shadow Dragons are 8, so they can't swing with the Shadow Dragons, which basically buys you a turn for 1 energy, which is really, really good. And it replaces itself and it comes to combo. So if you can nearly pretty much stop a turn of Shadow Dragons with that, you can't really complain. 2 Koitsukai, just for Kidku, just to try and get them to stop interacting with you on your turn when you're trying to mill them. As I said, I was lucky, I dodged all the Kidku today, so Koitsukai never come in. And then I had 2 Jirins, but I left my Jirins at home, so shout out to Benny, who managed to get top 8. I finished 9th place, and I was a bit salty about it, I ain't gonna lie, but if someone had to come 8th that wasn't me, I'm glad it was Benny, so big shout out to him. These are just, Jiren, you play against blue here, and you just always have to respect turning the tide, and I just really didn't know what I wanted to run in my side, so I just sort of tried to use cards that I thought might be practical and might actually help me not lose. So that's my deck. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to always talk anything mill. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who come and stayed with us this weekend. So my wife, Greg, Blake, Lee, Rowan, and that was it. That was it. That was it. So we had an absolute awesome weekend.
What games did you play today?
That was an awesome weekend. My matchups actually. So round 1, it didn't start the way I wanted it to. I actually had a bye first round. My opponent, as there was a Fusion World side event on, my opponent rocked up to play Fusion World, so he didn't show for my game. So I basically got a loss. I basically got a win, but my opponent had played it and then dropped, so it really affected my breakers, which ultimately probably did cost me not getting in that top 8 spot, which that is what it is, man. Like, I can't hate on people for doing that. Like, it is what it is. Round 2 was against Blue Baby, the counter deck that just plays counters for cheap, and that was I was probably in control really well, because Baby just wants to counter you and then essentially make you mill out. But it's a bit hard when you're milling them as well. And you could, it's an old leader, so it awakens at 4 or less life without really any self-awaken from what I've seen from my opponent. So I just didn't swing into him, and I just kept playing my Zamasus and drawing. And, you know, he had to start pushing to try and win, and he was actually running the 10-drop Gogeta that burns you 4 life if you have so many energy. So he played a few 6-cost Vegetas to ramp, to basically draw 4 cards. So that just aided it, and he was just trying to push the process along, but every time that he would just, I just had to answer every time for all his bodies, so he wasn't able to just keep constantly swinging into me. So I was well in control of that one. My following game was against Bojack, and it was pretty much like how everything pretty much went to game plan, just mill him a couple cards per turn, and then just sit behind floodgates. And like I was saying, he whiffed all his Boujans. He Z-charged one turn 1, and then he didn't see another one. They were all at the bottom of his deck. So I was able to get through unscathed. There was a few times where I just had to tap out for Oceanus, and I didn't have a dormant in case things went wrong. So I dodged that pretty well, and we got the win there. Round 4 was against Dean? Yeah, round 4 was against Dean, which was Oceanus, and unfortunately I just did not start the way. I looked at my hand and I had 2 floodgates, But I also had 2 Zamasu pieces and I was going first, and I probably, in theory, I should have thrown the hand back and mulled again because I didn't really have, I had like a handful of cards that I didn't want to charge, and I probably got caught in the mindset of Fusion World drawing first. I thought I just could charge whatever I drew, and obviously when you go first in Masters, you don't draw. So I had to charge a Zamasu turn 1, and I took my first life was another Zamasu, and I drew into something else, and I either had to charge a dormant, which I didn't want to do. I think like the dormants are way too valuable, making sure you survive. So I had to charge another Zamasu. I'm already down 2 Zamasus, and I didn't have a Goku Black, which I found off the top 5 search. Wasn't what I wanted to take off the top 5 search, but it's what I had to take if I wanted to get my chain going. So we got that going, and then eventually we just weren't able to get going properly. Unfortunately, there was a turn where, like I said, I just had to play. I literally had no targets to play. I had to play Purunga to just draw 2 and hope that I drew into stuff. And I just, Dean played really well. It got pretty close. I think he had about 10 cards left in deck, so that's sort of like kill range for Zamasu on like turn 6, even turn 5, depending on if you see the right pieces. So I wasn't too far off, but that was the first time I ever had any really problems with the deck being consistent. But I can't complain about it. The deck was like really well, and it draws so much. As long as you keep the draws going, you shouldn't ever have a problem with not finding things. And then final round was to another Oceanus. Shout out to Blake. He's an absolute awesome player, and I've, for the longest time, wanted to be able to beat him. We've played many times and I haven't been able to get a win over him. And today I was able to get that done. It was very, very touch and go. I was just very fortunate that I was able to find like a run of 3 Oceanuses. So I found 1 Oceanus, and it just come down to did he have the triple strike in hand, which he did have the triple strike in hand, but he didn't have the Shadow Dragons in the drop to be able to play it, which I was very, very lucky for. So if he had had the ability to be able to play the triple strike, the game was over. And it took some real mathing out because he was playing the Shadow Dragon that did allow him to put 3 cards back in the bottom of his deck. So whenever I mapped out that he wasn't able to swing through any Oceanus for the win, he could just add some cards back into his deck, and then I would have to go to the next turn, try and mill him a few more, and then sit behind a floodgate. And in the end, I was just able to sit behind a double floodgate, and then just went on to mill his last 7 cards, which was like probably the most intense game, and probably the best game that I had played since I've been playing Masters. And it was just a really good feeling because I just had this absolute horrible luck of losing my last game, and it happened to me yesterday in Fusion World, and I got in my own head about it. But today we were able to overcome that, and we got the win. So that were my matchups. Like I said, a bit disappointed to get 9th, but you can't complain with 9th place at Nationals. So that's actually back-to-back national top 16s for me. Last year we did with Cooler Mill, and this year we've done it with Zamasu. So consider myself maybe a little bit of a mill expert, but I'm sure there's definitely way better people out there. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. And if you want to know anything about the deck, please do let me know. I know there are a lot of nationals coming up, so if anyone, this deck is good. You just need to believe in it. But we'll catch you all next time.